Yes, it's absolutely anti-family. The kids are pushed to go no contact. Um, Even the kids that parents affirm and go along with, they are pushed to go no contact because it's something they're trying to destroy the nuclear family. So even if your parents affirm you, give you everything you want, give you the hormones, do the surgery, it does not mean they won't cut you off. It This is a anti-family movement.
My guest today is Josie, one of the editors of Parents with Inconvenient Truths About Trans, Volume 2, Tales from the Home Front in the Fight to Save Our Kids. It is a collection of primary sources describing the experience of parenthood under attack by the gender identity fad. 82 different parents speak for themselves, anonymously, about the pressure they experience to conform with harmful medical transition practices on their children, about the pressure their children receive to conform with gender ideology, and the anxiety of life in the drama triangle formed between parent, child, and state over gender identity. Josie, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Josie, there's no typical story of the parent that is going through this. Every family is different, every child is different, and so on. But there are patterns. What patterns are most important for understanding the pit parent?
I think the pattern is the vulnerable, lonely child. Most of the kids are quirky and very intelligent and always felt like they didn't fit in to the other kids. They were lonely and they found a group of other kids that they could relate to. That all kind of came into this belief that they were the opposite sex.
That's interesting because the only thing that detransitioners all share is that they had this belief in themselves as being the opposite sex. So that would be the most important pattern, you say. It's just that this belief arrives and that everything else follows on that belief.
Right. They're trying to escape something that I'm not even sure they understand what it is that they are trying to escape. Maybe themselves. And they're very vulnerable kids. They get a lot of praise from the other adults in the world when they come out as trans. And instead of they were kind of ignored before, and then all of a sudden they blossom and everyone is congratulating them and they get friends, they're considered cool or whatever, not all of them, but it kind of makes them think, oh, well, then this must be real. And it's also for a lot of autistic kids, it's kind of a systematic, like if you do this, you do this, you do this, and you get this great outcome. And I think that appeases an autistic kid because when you're autistic, it seems that you don't know how to fix it. But this gives you a way to fix why you feel different, why you're different than other kids.
Almost all of the early organizing, say from about 2016 onwards, was parents meeting in online spaces to share their experiences, and everything was pseudonymous or anonymous. I'm thinking of Mumsnet, for example. And then there was almost an underground referral system. That's how parents began to find Sasha Ayad and Stella O'Malley and Miriam Grossman. And So the pit parents in this book are anonymous for reasons that are obvious upon reading it. Did you ever imagine yourself as an underground resistance leader before gender came along? And what has that transition been like for you, to use a word?
Never in my wildest dreams. Just thought I was a working mom and I had this great life. And then the gender Borg hit my family, and I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. And but I knew in my gut that it wasn't real. And so I started Googling, and nothing, you couldn't find anything but positive um, trans. And, we did go to doctors and they pushed, oh, you have to affirm and you have to do all this stuff. They're never going to change their mind. You want a dead son or a live daughter. We got all that. But my husband and I both were like not buying it. And we pushed back with these doctors even. But then we still didn't know what to do, because everybody in my son's life, all the adults were, celebrating, and we were not. So I finally found a podcast, and then in the comments it said, who do parents reach out to, or what are there any organizations to help parents? And it said parents of ROGD kids. And so I went straight to that website and I emailed them and I joined it, and they sent me to a mom in the same city I live in. And then they sent me all this material, all these references, these videos. And it was amazing that I finally found what I had been looking for. That took me months. It made me realize I was not crazy and I was not alone. And then I found a group of moms of just boys. And that is where this whole thing was hatched, the whole pet parents. The leader of this boys group just kept adding parents. And we were gonna just be the 9 of us. And then I think we became 10 of us. And then there was 11. And then she just kept adding. And then there were hundreds of us, of just parents with boys from all over the world. And we decided as a group, some of us, about 20 of us, just said, let's start writing our story, because all the attention was on girls. Abigail Schreier had, her book had come out and it was only based on girls, and boys weren't even mentioned like it was a thing. But we all knew it was a thing, and we just felt like completely ignored, and we wanted to give the ROGD boys experience, because all of our boys were the same. They were all quirky. They all had high IQs. I mean, if we talked about our kid, we'd say that's my kid too. And they all looked alike. It was, we all, and most of the parents of the boys, they were professionals, very smart, doctors. There, all kinds of people with advanced degrees, and they had very smart kids. And in the old days, you would call them nerds. And these nerds were, all our boys were nerds, and yet nerds used to be safe. But now they're feeling like they have to change who they are. So anyway, I digress, but we decided to all write our story and see if we could get them published. So we did. We got them published in a bunch of different publications around. And then one of the moms, her stories got taken down from Medium. And she said to me, well, let's put them on a Substack. And I said, okay, I'll start a Substack. So I started the Substack. She came up with the name, Parents of Inconvenient Truths About Trans. And then we put a bunch of stories up on the site. And then that was June 1st of 2021. And then I just started publishing them. And she would edit and I would tweet them out. And we asked a bunch of the other boy parents if they would write a story for our Substack, and they did. And then I decided, well, I should ask some of the mom parents I know because we all knew each other. And they did. And I was tweeting them out, and they were getting picked up by a lot of big um, Twitter platforms. So we were getting a lot of reads. Like we were like, wow, this is like catching on. And then parents started sending me their stories. And so we were publishing around maybe one a week or two a week. And then we got so many stories that we had to publish 5 days a week. And we are still publishing 5 days a week because we get that many stories.
Pardon me while I ask about politics for a second. There is a story that the Democratic Party keeps telling itself. It's a story that does not help them to understand us, to understand what is going on, to understand why there is resistance. They don't understand why Donald Trump's they them ads worked on independence. They don't understand what the big deal is about males and females sports. Basically, their mental model of resistance to the gender woo is broken. They tell themselves that we're right wingers with right wing funding in prayer filled back rooms. Um, can you, for example, describe your own political journey with this issue? Did you start out as a Heritage Foundation flacky and just, get secretive right-wing funding? What did you do? What have you done as far as how have you financed this? I mean, it's just a Substack, obviously, but you have subscribers. So what have you been doing with all the big scratch you've been getting from the right-wing funding? Can you tell us that?
Well, we don't collect any money, and we're not a nonprofit. We make zero money, and the money from our books actually goes to GenSpec. So none of us who run the Substack make any money. Um, I was, I've always been a Democrat. Have always voted Democratic, and until this issue came up, I um, trusted the Democrats, and I thought they were moral and were good. And this has made me changed my whole thinking. And I am politically homeless. I no longer trust the Democrats, and I now wonder what else they've been lying to me about my whole life. And I don't like politics at all. It's really changed me forever, and I vote on the person, not the party. And I look at what they're doing instead of just voting along party lines.
I will certainly not ask you to speak for a whole community, but my sense from reading the book is that these parents are just absolutely furious with Democrats. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are Trump voters. It means they used to be reliably Democratic voters. Now they are either voting the other way or they are not voting, which is what I had expected when I sat down 7 years ago and applied my understanding of political science and voter behavior and history to this particular issue. I realized at that time that this was going to happen. What is your sense of this community's political journey in general?
Well, of all the moms I know who were Democrats are no longer voting Democrats, and have some of them have even changed parties. Um, I do know several Republican who have always been conservatives and who have children in this. But we're just parents, and we never cared about what your political affiliation was, and I still don't, or what religion or whatever. We just want to save the children, and we want to end this. So politics has not been an issue with any of the parents that I know, because that's not what we talk about. But we are happy with some of the changes that have come about. With the Trump administration, we were thrilled to get rid of Levine. Not all parents feel that way, but most parents I know are happy but worried about the Democrats doubling down and how it will impact the future. But I'm just glad that we don't have an administration that is actually working towards the harm of children.
So it's safe to say that the pit parent experience has been maybe not radicalizing, that might be the wrong word, but disappointing. It's reverse radicalization almost because we are responsive to the radical idea that kids need sex changes, right? And what's happened is that there's a disillusionment that takes place. When you realize that the school, the state, the medical profession, the therapists, they're all against you, the whole world is against you, it's just an overwhelming realization, and that's in this book. For my review, I used that image of Donald Sutherland in the final scene of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, when the world has been taken over by the alien fungus. The whole world believes you are the worst sort of parent, or they are ready to believe it, as if their minds have been taken over and all the humans around you have been turned into zombies, but they still run the CIA and the FBI and the school system and the hospitals. Someone in this book referred to it as the gender party, like you have woken up in East Germany and the party is policing your thoughts. Can you talk about that experience? You have had that breakthrough realization. You've had other parents go through it. Um, what is that like?
Changes you forever, because every institution you thought was safe, you no longer trust. It breaks down all your trust in everybody and everyone, and it makes you can't even imagine that this is possible in your lifetime, and you just look at the world completely different. It is so dystopian. It is. We have always described it as Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it we can't understand how everybody doesn't see through it. I think that's the hardest thing, is no matter what you say, they still will go. They still believe that people are born in the wrong body or something, and that this is a real thing, and it's a human rights issue, and instead of just realizing it's really harming people, and that's really hard to get over. The people that you trust, they don't you can't trust anybody, and it's scary. It's really frightening.
And it's not just the levers of state and society. It's that you can't even go to church without the gender woo. It's that your children are constantly exposed to it on television. It's that you can't leave the house without encountering someone who thinks that they're being so kind when they use the pronouns for your child, right? Um, it's everything. It's everywhere. It permeates the world around you all of a sudden, and that is a really um, decentering experience. And throughout this book, parents refer to the trans cult. They use that word a lot, 224 times, I believe, in the text. The word cult is used in some context, cult-like. They flat out call it a cult. You flat out call it a cult in the introduction. And when I study it as a historian through the framework of faith formation, I see a lot of historical parallels. just a few very unique traits, but it walks like a cult, it talks like a cult, and it medically quacks like a cult. Um, and in this book, parents are reporting success when they apply the recommended cult deprogramming techniques. Don't argue, maintain connection, sow seeds of doubt, encourage critical thinking. The sort of stereotypical, kidnap the child and take them away and deprogram them. That's not workable. That's not what the real experts tell you to do. The real experts tell you to just maintain connection with the child and just try to get them thinking. So, how useful and real is this framework of understanding transgenderism as a cult? Does it have limitations? Is it an analogy or is it more concrete than an analogy, do you think?
Well, I think it says a lot because you can see your child change in a way that you never thought possible. This they they change drastically. They're not the person they used to be, and you as parents you saw that happen in front of your eyes, and it's astounding. And when they desist or detransition, you see them come back. So you know it was a cult, from my own experience. I Because they they go along with everything that they're told to do. They read the script. They act out the script. It's like they're zombies. It's really crazy. Um, and parents who know their kid best, more than the schools, more than the doctors, they experience this change in their child that cannot be explained any other way than a cult.
There's a joke that Mel Brooks used to tell. He would play this man who was 2,000 years old and he had hundreds of grandkids. So he would open his wallet and all the pictures of his grandkids would fall out. And he would say, "But you know, none of them ever call me." The grief of parental estrangement is universal, right? And it's old. And much of the problem is that this trans cult is appealing to kids at the moment of adult individuation, the moment when they want to separate themselves from their parents in some way, and they don't even know why they want that. It's this instinctive urge to leave the nest that is being abused by an ideology. And then you have parents who lose custody of the children in the divorce, and the transgender identity becomes a way to alienate the non custodial parent. And then there are parents whose children go running to their deadbeat dads who are affirming because it hurts the ex. Grandparents get cut off, family members cut each other off. There are so many ways in which the transgender identification wrecks a family because it's a cult that lets the child lead. That seems intrinsically anti family. Would you agree that gender identity is fundamentally inimical to the family as well as parental rights? That there is just something there that is anti family by design?
Yes, it's absolutely anti-family. The kids are pushed to go no contact. Um, Even the kids that parents affirm and go along with, they are pushed to go no contact because it's something they're trying to destroy the nuclear family. So even if your parents affirm you, give you everything you want, give you the hormones, do the surgery, it does not mean they won't cut you off. It This is a anti-family movement.
Another theme that I observed in this book was the red carpet getting rolled out by state services and federal programs whenever a child declares a transgender identity. These accounts were, of course, written during the Biden administration, when gender woo had insinuated itself into absolutely everything. One of the detransitioners I met in Washington during March told me about a homeless man receiving a vaginoplasty. Okay, that's how insane it's gotten. They're recruiting homeless people who, of course, are going to have so much fun out there dilating every day to receive these procedures. So, if a child with mental illness or other challenges runs away, there is this incredible support structure that has been in place to replace the family. The government becomes the glitter family. And here's the thing, though, in most of these cases that I've heard, the child is struggling. They do not finish high school. In the cases where they go away to college and the clinic, says, "Oh, here, have some, hormones," just handing them out. Generally, the child does not graduate. It is a graduation killer, in my observation. So, can you speak to the frequent involvement of state agencies, nonprofits, even law enforcement in enabling this cult-like behavior? And furthermore, what do you think about that? Is it a graduation killer? Does it help them fail to fly, so to speak?
Well, yeah, I mean, my son barely graduated high school, and I think he went to under other circumstances. They just let him pass because he stopped going to school. He wasn't turning in homework. It destroys their mental health. This this whole ideology, and a lot of the parents I know, kids could not finish college. Though I do know some that are and are functioning very well, but and they still have a relationship, but their kid isn't necessarily doing great. The kids can just get whatever sources they want and push away from the family, and everybody will let them have whatever they need. And there's been several pit stories where the colleges, you know, paid for the whole thing, paid for their whole school because, the parents didn't affirm. And it's just complete institutional capture. And they're not doing these kids any good. They're it's it's very sad. And um no matter how many we stories we write, I mean, I when we first started writing our stories, we thought, oh, we will get recognition and people will see that all these problems. And after now it's been what, almost 4 years, we realize that it's not going to stop it. But as you said in your review of the first book, this will be a historic book, and that's all we can hope for. And it does help the parents to tell their story because it's on record that this is what happened to them. And so nobody can deny that they didn't tell their story. I, often wanted to find the stories from the 60s of the parents whose kids, ran off to join a commune um, and left their families and disowned them or whatever, with no contact in today's word. But I can't find those stories. But you will be able to find the parent stories of this revolution that has happened to our children. And hopefully it's a warning for future generations.
Let's talk about GenSpect. You know, and I know that the attacks on this organization from certain quarters are absolutely insane. But mainly, I ascribe them to jealousy because none of these conspiracy theory people is organizing anything significant, right? They're not associating parents together to create a book. They don't affect legislation. They certainly aren't doing anything for parents. In fact, they attack parents and detransitioners who won't kowtow to their agenda. So GenSpect, I understand, is controversial even within pit parents, of course. But I met you at GenSpect, and your proceeds for the first book went to GenSpect. So, what is your take on this organization? What do you feel about it?
Well, I was with GenSpec from the start. They had invited me in from the very beginning before it even started. And I didn't really do anything in the organization. I just was wanting to contribute whatever I could. And I believed in it. They did start out as a voice for parents. And later, they became a large umbrella and invited detransitioners in. They did start out sort of middle ground, which um, for reasons, because if they just were hardcore uh, one direction, they would not be able to get um, some of the. They were trying to go after the left wing media, and if they were just hardcore, they would never get that. But um, they they have changed their stance on that because um, of all the pushback, and they're more hardcore now, and all their beliefs are stated. Genspec has been amazing to us because when we first started, once we got some recognition, we noticed that we were getting um, a lot of the gender doctors were subscribing to our Substack. And this was early on, and we sort of got nervous that we were going to get docs because I was just using an email and it was just me and with a fake email. But so we talked to Stella, and she invited us in to be part of the GenSpec umbrella, and then they give us a cover using the GenSpec email. But they agreed that they would have nothing to do with our writing, or they don't see our Substack. They don't edit. But they platform us on the GenSpec website and give us a cover, and they've been really great to us. And I know that some people have had issues with them, but I have not. I've had nothing but good, positive things. And I've been to all three of their conferences, and I get a lot out of it. I like, it's great to be with the other parents and to meet the experts and to know that everybody there is really wanting to stop this because it needs to be stopped, because it's a huge medical scandal and there's so many kids have been hurt or are getting hurt. And my mission is to keep doing this until the kids are saved.
Tell me how this book came together from the Substack this time, the second volume. Um, what was your thinking when you prepared the volume? I think you were sort of running a different theme this time. So talk about that. And will there be a third volume?
Well, I had talked to the publisher and asked if he would be interested in doing a second volume, and he said yes. So I decided that I wanted the theme to be what about the parents? And so I asked as Hakeem to write the foreword, and I gave him that theme, and we tried to put the book together um, in that way, and writing the intro, and um, we tried to talk about how this has affected the parents, how this has been indoctrinated through society in different societies. And I quoted different books that wrote about, these strange phenomenons, and, how this contagion can happen. Um, and so that's what I wanted the theme to be about, is the social contagion and about the parents. You asked me about a third book. We have enough material to write a third book. And I'm going to the publisher is open to that, and maybe we'll discuss it this summer and see if there will be a third book. But we definitely have the material. I'll keep publishing the books as long as the publisher will agree to it.
What do you see in the near term? It's still early in the Trump second presidency. Do you see us having this battle basically won in 2026? Do you think we're going to have a breakthrough, or do you think we're still going to be fighting this culture war a decade from now? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's hard to know. It feels like every two steps forward, one step back, because this administration has set up a bunch of executive orders um, that can be overturned quickly unless Congress or the Senate passes a bill. I don't know if anything will happen, and we'll see what happens with the Scrimeti case with the Supreme Court. I'm optimistic, but yet I know the money and the that's behind this, and I want to hope, but it can all change again tomorrow. So I don't know. There's been some really amazing things that have happened, and I'm excited about that. And there's a lot of lawsuits that haven't actually come out yet. So I think once those lawsuits start happening, I think there could be a lot more change. And we do have 4 years for this. So a lot could happen in 4 years, but we'll see. I hope.
Josie, thank you for talking with me today.
Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you writing about our book and talking to me about parents with inconvenient truths about trans.
My guest today has been Josie, one of the editors of Parents with Inconvenient Truths About Trans, Volume 2, Tales from the Home Front in the Fight to Save Our Kids. I reviewed the book. That book review is now unlocked. Make sure that you check it out. You have listened to a podcast production of thedistancemag.com, an encampment for the politically homeless. We examine gender identity issues through a critical and historical lens. Consider supporting thedistancemag.com with your paid premium subscription to receive instant early access to all content.